Hello guys, this is your friend Dark Fox 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto abandoned Konoha and rose as the Neo Overlord with his Queens of Desire, Hinata times Haku times Dark Emperor Naruto Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The Ino-Shika-Cho trio and Tenten had left Konoha that very night. They could have taken a boat downriver to the coast, but Aim and Iwa Ninja patrolled the river, forcing them to take the long way around, which meant heading north, traveling incognito as not to attract any unwanted attention from unfriendly ninja. Their destination was a small port in Lightning Country, where a ship would take them to Azura. The trip had taken them 2 weeks just to arrive at Azura. This was Ino and Tenten's second time returning to Azura, as was Tenten's, since they were part of the original Rakan team along with Neji Hyuga, Sakura Haruno, Maeda Guy, Rock Lee, Asuma Sarutobi and Sasuke Uchiha when Whirlpool decided to host a taijutsu tournament. It was also there where the big revelation was revealed that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was the daimyo of Whirlpool and the former Hyuga heiress was his wife. Of course Sasuke went through the tournament, and like an idiot, called out the Whirlpool daimyo, declaring his superiority over him as an Uchiha elite, despite having lost to him twice. Normally, Naruto would remain on the sidelines watching, but decided an object lesson in humility and humiliation was in order. Sasuke did not stand a chance as Naruto decimated the Uchiha prince, proving to all those present that he was the wrong daimyo to piss off. Things went from bad to worse when he activated his curse seal in violation of the rules. Naruto's response. A chakra-powered open palm strike to the chest a la Wesker's Cobra Strike, which sent him to the tournament walls and a lifetime ban of showing up in Whirlpool, on pain of death. The Uchiha's ego once again gave Konoha yet another black eye. Aside from the confrontation with Naruto and Sasuke, Neji confronted Hinata once again, while she was with her and Naruto's children. Ino and Asuma had witnessed the resulting beatdown from the sidelines. Apparently, Neji had forgotten that attacking the wife of a daimyo was a very bad thing, especially after threatening harm on her children. Ino shook her head. The beatdown she had given Neji the first time around when they were missing ninja was bad enough, but hell hath no fury like a woman protecting her children. Neji was sent to the Neo-Uzu jails for the duration of the tournament for the attempted assault on the Whirlpool daimyo's wife and children, after Hinata had beaten him within an inch of his life. Like Sasuke, he too got nailed with a lifetime ban for his attack on the daimyo's wife. And now, they were on a boat, heading for Azura, where the Namikaze family would be for the duration of the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament, with the fate of Konoha hanging in the balance. Tenten was out on deck. That's where Ino found her, hunched over the railing, puking her guts out. Ever since the start of the mission, Tenten had been puking every morning. Ino thought she was sick, but it was Shikamaru who figured it out. "You really are a troublesome teammate," Shikamaru had said. "Tenten's pregnant. Neji's the father." Ignoring the catcalls of the other male ninja, Ino approached Tenten. "You okay?" "Not really," Tenten replied. Ino bit her lip. "How long?" "Excuse me." Shikamaru figured it out. "How long have you been pregnant?" 3 weeks. "I only found out after the hospital blew up." "I think Neji knew." Tenten was one of the 10 survivors of the failed rescue attempt of the Fire Lord. It was Neji who had found out from using his Byakugan that they just walked right into an ambush. Then the killing began. Cell 9 remained together with their flamboyant sensei and were delivering major losses to the AIM forces. Then Hanzo stepped in, and according to Tenten's report, things went to shit fast. Maeda Guy was the first to fall. Then Rock Lee. Tenten would have been next, but Neji attacked Hanzo from behind, and earned a broken neck. Neji's head twisted back a complete 180 degrees, for the effort. His uncle was the next person to fall at Hanzo's hands. Kurenai was pinned to the wall with countless kunai and Asuma was hacked apart by katana-wielding AIM ninja. Shino and Shibi were incinerated using fire jutsu. The Ino-Shika Cho trio had fallen one by one. With the deaths of the elder trio, they were unable to reconcile with their children. Kakashi and Sasuke double-teamed Hanzo. Tenten saw that match. Hatake lost his head, and Sasuke had his back broken and eyes gouged out. 5 of the Konoha Junin fought Hanzo en masse, 2 of them being Sume and Kiba Inuzuka, already injured, allowing the other 9 to retreat with Sasuke. Hanzo decided to let them go, rather than to kill them all. Tenten, I am so sorry, Ino whispered. How am I going to explain this to our child? Tenten said, looking down at her stomach, which was covered up by her Junin vest. It was flat now, but in a couple of months. You'll have to tell them the truth, Ino said. That their father died like a true shinobi. Pausing for a moment, Ino removed the Hitai-8 from her pocket. Looking into the metal piece with the insignia of the lead carved into it, the blonde Kunoichi ran her thumb over the symbol. I was so happy when I received this. But now, I can see now that Shikamaru was right. Konoha's days are numbered. But if we get Naruto on our side, then we might have a chance, the weapons master pointed out. Even if we did get Naruto on our side, Konoha is still doomed. Shikamaru explained it to Choji and I. We lost too many high-ranking ninja ever since this war started. Our Chunin are as green as they come and we're basically the last of the Junin. Konoha is done. It's all his fault, Tenten said. That damned Kyuubi bastard. No, he's not the Nine Tails Reborn. He's a Jinchuriki, the human sacrifice, Ino explained. While I despise Naruto for being that, he is no demon. Between him and the Uchiha, I would rather deal with Naruto. But didn't most of the Junin, including your father, tried to kill him on separate occasions? Didn't you? Tenten remained silent after that. She did tried her hardest to kill both him and Hinata when they were both missing ninja. She wasn't expecting Naruto to beat her at her own game by becoming a master swordsman. She was just following orders from Tsunade and the Fire Lord. The only person who truly looked out for him was the Sandaime. You think that Naruto would forgive us? After all the crap we've put him through? Tenten asked. You mean the beatings, the repeated assassination attempts, and being betrayed? I seriously doubt that. I wasn't too gaga over him, but after Sasuke's attempted defection to Orochimaru, I wasn't too nuts about him either. Naruto had the power to destroy Konoha, but kept it in check. Sasuke was more than willing to kill in order to gain power. So in a way, I kinda respect Naruto and wouldn't blame him if he refused to help us. In Azura, Naruto sneezed. You okay? Hinata asked. Naruto nodded. I think someone is talking about me. Town of Azura, North Whirlpool Country, the following day. Preparations were underway for the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament. Ninja from the major shinobi nations and even the minor ones were starting to show up in preparation for the tournament. The town of Azura, a trading hub and popular tourist hotspot, would be full of people for the next 3 weeks. Even long after the tournament would end, ninja would remain for several more days before leaving for their respective villages. Nestled at the base of the Laja Mountains, Azura was also known for its hot springs, to which several hot springs resorts were built to accommodate demand. Ino, Shikamaru, Choji and Tenten, all dressed incognito, walked down the town's main street. Civilians and ninja were checking out the sights, the restaurants and food stands were nearly packed. Their fake IDs had allowed them entry into Azura without any fuss. Ninjas who were traditional rivals and enemies were all gathered to see who was the strongest. You would have loved this, Lee. Neji, Tenten thought sadly. Of course her deceased teammates were present at the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament in its first year. That was 8 years ago. Since then Sasuke's actions in the Whirlpool tournament and Neji's actions in his attempted assault on Hinata and her children, Konoha was not welcome in Whirlpool, given their blatant disregard for the daimyo's diplomatic immunity status. At the same time, ahead of the Konoha team, the wife of the Whirlpool daimyo knew how to turn heads, be it in her ninja uniform or in her Chisogam dresses, the Chinese-style dresses you see Li Fang fight in. Currently, she was dressed in the latter. One thing about Hinata Namikaze was that she hated kimonos and yukatas, stemming from her time when she was forced to dress up in those as the heiress. It was while in Spring Country in the 4 years following their exile from Fire Country in Konoha that Koyuki took her to a dress shop in which they specialized in Chisogam dresses. She instantly fell in love with the dresses. Hair done up in a bun and secured in place with a pair of lacquered chopsticks, she walked the streets, turning plenty of male heads as she walked by. The Chisogam was black with red trim, complete with a red rose motif, and showed plenty of toned leg. It was a known fact that the fox sage's beauty was matched with her talent, and any attempts on her life was a one-way ticket to the hospital, or worse. Speaking of their children, they were back in Neo Uzu, with Katami watching them for the duration of the tournament. Her husband, the daimyo of Whirlpool, was in step beside her, dressed in his formal attire, white shirt, black longcoat, vest pants and boots, Hinata's arm looped around his own. Unlike most daimyos, Naruto could relate to the ninja, as he was still one regardless of being of noble birth. He knew what it was like to start out with nothing, survive backstabbers and betrayals left and right. Ninja who knew of his exploits, be it as a Konoha ninja to the daimyo of Whirlpool, good and bad, respected him. The daimyos also respected him for his abilities to rebuild a ruined nation into one of the most powerful in the elemental countries. What the populace didn't know was that the daimyo of Whirlpool and his wife were in fact, shadow clones. Unknown to the 4 Konoha ninja, Naruto and Hinata were already onto them, hence the cage bushin that was leading them to Naruto and Hinata's Azura residence. Since they had arrived the previous night, they were spotted by Anko, who in turn notified Naruto and Hinata. Originally, Naruto had thought that they would not ask for help, but upon finding out that they were here, he told Hinata that she was permitted one, "I told you so." His mind was already made up in regards to Konoha. This was their own mess, and he did not want to get involved. But since they made the trip, might as well not disappoint them with an audience. Daimyo's summer residence. Shikamaru suspected that something was up. This was too easy as they followed the daimyo and his wife through the streets, down a private walkway, and into their Azura residence. From the look of things, the home was designed like the destroyed Namikaze residence back in Konoha, only smaller. It was complete with a training hall and a lodge. Shikamaru and the others noticed that there were no guards, but suspected that Naruto didn't need any, as he was a Fuinjutsu master. Shikamaru's concerns were then verified as they followed the former Konoha ninja into the compound's courtyard, where they stopped, turned around and faced them. "Pop. Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered, "shadow clones." That was all he managed to say before he froze in mid-step, as did his teammates. Shikamaru's reason: the fact that there was a katana blade resting up against his jugular. Turning his eyes to the side, it was a less than amused daimyo of Whirlpool which held the blade at his throat. His teammates were no better off. Yahiko and 2 extra Anbu held both Choji and Tenten at sword point, while Hinata's chakra scalpel was ready to sever Ino's carotid artery. "Shikamaru Nara, I'd expected better from you," Naruto drawled, not moving his blade from the lazy Nara's throat. You knew that we were here." It was a statement, rather than a question from the last Nara. "What business does Konoha want with me?" Naruto asked. "Could you please lower your weapons?" Shikamaru asked. "We come in peace. For your sake, I hope so," Naruto replied as he lowered his katana, while ordering Yahiko and the Anbu to do the same. Hinata dispersed her chakra scalpel and took her place at her husband's side. On Naruto's command, the Neo Uzu Anbu dispersed, but remained in the shadows. Sheathing his weapon but keeping his grip on the scabbard, Naruto and Hinata stood within double arm's reach of his former teammates. Shikamaru slowly went down to one knee, with the other 3 following suit. This was the hardest thing that any of the Konoha ninja could ever do, Ask the dead last, now one of the most powerful men in the shinobi world for help. Had it been Sasuke, he would have scoffed at the thought of asking the Dobi for help. Lord Daimyo, Shikamaru began, on behalf of the Godime Hokage, Tsunade Senju and of the village hidden in the leaves, we come seeking your aid. A Megakure no Sato has invaded Fire Country. The Fire Daimyo has been taken hostage and is being held prisoner inside his home. The Fire Capital has been occupied by AIM forces. Why come to me? Naruto demanded, already knowing the answer. Why not send a rescue force to the capital and free the daimyo? And what happened to the Rokudime? Why is the old hag Hokage again? We tried, and failed, Tenten replied, her voice cracking. 200 Junin level shinobi, nearly slaughtered down to the last man. I was there when the ambush was sprung. Most of the Konoha 11 was wiped out, as well as several clan heads. She looked at Hinata. Your father and cousin were among the casualties, Lady Hinata. You are mistaken, Hinata replied coldly. I have no father. I have no cousin. How could you be so cold? Tenten demanded, rising to her feet. They were your family. Neji was my teammate. You seem to forget that my father wanted to place the caged bird seal on my forehead because I wasn't the perfect little Hyuga he wanted, Hinata snarled. And you also forgot that Neji tried to kill me out of spite during the Chunin exams. Have you forgotten about that incident? I sure as hell didn't. Naruto placed one hand on Hinata's shoulder. She calmed down. What about the Uchiha? I heard he was elected Rokudime. Sasuke's dead, Shuza deadpanned. His eyes were ripped out and his back broken by Rashojin Hanzo. When Kakashi tried to intervene, Hanzo killed him. Tenten and 8 others took Sasuke back to Konoha, where the village was already under repeated attacks by the smaller villages. One of the attacks was directed at the hospital, where it was converted into a triage center. Grass Ninja, armed with exploding clones and exploding tags, leveled the entire building. Sasuke Uchiha, Shizune, Sakura Haruno, all dead. Quote. Naruto remained silent. I will admit that Konoha has been hit pretty hard ever since you were banished, Shikamaru continued. Ever since AIM invaded, the Leaf has been under constant attack. We managed to fight off the attacks, but our numbers are being depleted. Our Junin forces are down to less than 300, and our Chunin have not known battle until now. Sooner or later, we will no longer have the numbers to fight back. What does this have to do with me, Nara? Naruto asked, obviously irritated. Shikamaru decided not to tell Naruto of Hanzo's demands. He instead told him of what Tsunade wanted him to tell Naruto. The Godime has promised to acknowledge you as the heir to the Namikaze clan, offer you clan status in Konohagakure no Sato, and all of your past crimes will be pardoned. Naruto looked at Shikamaru long and hard, before replying, you lie. Excuse me, I said, you lie, Nara, Naruto repeated, killer intent radiating from his body, affecting the 4 ninja. Even without the Rinnegan, I can tell that you are lying. Please don't lie to me, as it insults my integrity as daimyo. The old hag never agreed to those terms you presented to me, didn't she? Silence, as Nara looked down. I thought so, Naruto said as his eyes reverted back to normal. You should follow village politics more, Nara. As daimyo of Whirlpool, I have automatic diplomatic status, as does Hinata, which means the entries inside the Konoha bingo book are null and void. Second, clan status in Konoha means nothing to me, as I know that is also a lie. Sasuke and Neji found that out the hard way when they tried to attack Hinata and myself. That's for sure, Ino and Tenten thought. Ino remembered the confrontation between the former Cell 7 teammates on the eve of the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament years earlier. Sasuke had not been impressed with Naruto's rise as the daimyo of Whirlpool, and still claimed superiority over the former Jinchuriki. Naruto simply got under his skin by saying that if he could not beat him, then killing Itachi was out of the question. That remark made Sasuke furious. Dobi, do you have any idea who you are dealing with? Sasuke had demanded. Naruto's response was cold enough to send chills down Ino's spine. Do you? He responded. Look at where I am, Uchiha. And look at you. You claim superiority as an Uchiha elite, yet you can't beat me. You couldn't beat me at the Valley of the End even with your cursed seal, nor could you beat me in T-Country despite your Sharingan. The fact that you are still alive is because of my grace. That, and your inability of trying to kill your elder brother amuses me. Don't make me think I made a mistake, Uchiha, because I have absolutely no problem in ending the Uchiha line once and for all. Ino spoke up. We received a visit from Rashogen Hanzo. He said that he would spare Konoha if you fight him one-on-one in single combat. Win or lose, he will spare Fire Country. That's why we're here. Almost immediately, upon hearing that, Naruto knew what Hanzo was planning. So that's his game, lowering Konoha's guard by giving them an impossible task to complete, then strike when they least expect it. By the time these four return to Fire Country, Konoha will already be under attack by AIM and Iwa forces. No, Ino repeated. No, Naruto repeated. Why should I fight for Konoha when it is well documented that they fail to keep their end of the bargain are of pure spite? I should know. I fought in the invasion when Suna and Oto invaded Konoha, stopped Gaara from destroying the town, and was denied Chunin. I brought that drunken hag back so she could be Godime Hokage, and was denied Chunin. Now, Naruto was starting to get angry. And last, I brought your damned Uchiha back and what do I get? Banishment, with your parents and the Fire Lord trying to steal my legacy. What was rightfully mine from the beginning? The four ninja winced at Naruto's voice. Oh, but there's more, Naruto continued. So much more. Old man Sarutobi tried his best to protect me, that I will admit, but he could not stop the abuse. Ino and the others watched as Naruto's eyes changed from a vibrant blue to a light purple with a ripple-like pattern. Hinata stepped to the side, while Yahiko and the others backed away. Whenever Naruto unleashed the power of the Rinnegan, bad things happened to those who caused his ire, which is rare, but oh was it a sight to behold. Now the four Konoha ninjas were on their knees, unable to move as they stared helplessly into the eyes of their former teammate. They watched as Naruto began to perform hand signs. You want to know suffering? You haven't seen what I've seen, experienced what I experienced. I will draw you into my mind, into my memories, give you a taste of what I have experienced back in Konohagakure. It was a jutsu that Naruto had created along with Katami's aid. It was similar to that of the mind transfer jutsu that the Yamanaka was famous for. However, instead of Naruto transferring his mind over to the four ninja, he instead pulled them into his consciousness. Into his memories. Within Naruto's subconsciousness. Ino, Shikamaru, Choji and Tenten had heard the reports of Naruto being abused. But now, they were seeing it through his eyes as he was beaten mercilessly by the villagers and ninja of Konoha. Naruto's shouts of mercy were immediately drowned out with cries of, demon. Monster. Kyuubi bastard. Kill the demon. For the Yondaime. And things just got worse from there. Naruto made sure that the ninja could see everything, feel everything, know what it was like to be an outcast, to be spit upon. There was no escape as Naruto opened up memories thought to have been suppressed, but resurfaced thanks to the nine tails unlocking the mental blocks that were put in place. To drive his point home, Naruto showed them the numerous assassination attempts made not only by their senseis, but also by their parents. We must kill him before my father finds out that something is wrong. Asuma Sarutobi, slashing and punching with his chakra-laced trench knives. It is very troublesome, but a demon like you is better off dead. Shikaku Nara, as he tried to strangle the young Naruto with his own shadow. It is most unyouthful in letting a demon live amongst us. I will avenge the Yondaime and kill this beast. Maida Guy, unleashing brutal taijutsu strikes on Naruto. This little bastard killed Kushina. He must die. Sume Inuzuka, unleashing her Gatsuga. You fools. Breaking his bones will leave a trace. I will kill him by destroying his mind. Inoichi Yamanaka, attempting to fry Naruto's brain. Drive the demon to madness. Only then will he fall. Kurenai Yuahi as her red eyes glowed with unleashing her most powerful genjutsu on the helpless boy. The brat is not the son of the Yondaime. Hiyashi Hyuga, as he nearly succeeded in killing Naruto with his Jiyuken. It is imperative that the boy must die for Konoha's sake. Shibi Aburame, as his bugs tried to destroy Naruto's chakra system. In dealing with the Kyuubi spawn, there is no such thing as overkill. Shuza Akamaiki, as one oversized fist sent Naruto flying into a wall. He killed Minato sensei and his wife. For that, he will suffer. Kakashi Hatake, as he unleashed torrents of flame upon the boy, ignoring his screams. The boy is to be banished. He caused the death of Kushina. For that, I will never forgive him. Tsunade Senju, on the eve of Naruto's banishment. So we are in agreement. Once he is dead, all we need is a sample of his blood to get past the seals Minato set up surrounding the Namikaze estate. Afterward, we will split everything inside from jutsus to cash. Since Kushina was the former daimyo of Whirlpool, she was loaded. Jiraiya, also on the eve of Naruto's banishment. So long as you remember to give me my cut for allowing this. Once this is over and done with, destroy all records of the Kyuubi boy. Birth certificate, ninja registration. Everything. It will be as if he never existed. The Fire Lord. What about the Uchiha, Danzo? He will be cleared of all charges. I think teaching him some of Uzu's jutsu and giving him the Namikaze estate to recover will be more of a gesture to convince him to stay. Especially if we teach him the Hiraishin. Again, the Fire Lord. Just as quickly it began, it was over. The Inoshika Cho trio and Tenten found themselves back in Azura, freed from Naruto's mind. As expected, Tenten threw up, while Ino looked catatonic. Choji was visibly shaken, while Shikamaru whispered, "Troublesome, so very troublesome," over and over again. Now do you understand? Naruto demanded, Rinnegan still active, longcoat fluttering in the breeze. They tried to erase the abuse that they did, but having the furball sealed inside your gut does has its advantages. I found out the abuse the elder Junin did to me while I was in Spring Country. When the elder Junin came after me, I repaid their treachery in kind. You thought I was being cruel. I called it justice. Guy-sensei, why? Tenten moaned, as she felt her torso burn with the phantom pain of Guy's brutal attacks. Her impression of her sensei had dropped a lot when he was more than willing to try and kill an innocent boy. Asuma, my god, what have you done? Dad, why did you do this? Ino whispered as she sobbed softly. Choji was silent. Troublesome. Dad, you fool. Shikamaru muttered as the full totality of what they experienced had hit them. And at last, they understand why Naruto would not help them. They thought it was out of pure spite. But he was justified in not helping them. Justified in wanting to see the Leaf Village burn to the ground. This is a mess of Konoha's doing, Naruto continued as his eyes returned to normal. This is the mess of the Fire Lord. My word is final. I will not come to Konoha's aid. The will of fire is gone, extinguished by the hands of the corrupt villagers and of the Shinobi Council. Had you decided to honor my father's request, I would be more than willing to fight for Konoha. But I refuse to fight for a village who will reward a traitor over a hero. What about us? Shikamaru asked. Killing you would be pointless, so your lives are yours still, the daimyo replied. But I want you gone by tomorrow morning. I have eyes and ears all over Azura, and I will know. Summoning the Anbu, he ordered them to take them back to their hotel for the night. Come the morning, they would be on the first ship back to Lightning Country. Shikamaru and Choji helped the two catatonic women out of the compound, assisted by the Neo-Uzu Anbu. The Azura Inn, later. Shock was the predominant expression at the revelations which Naruto had revealed to the four Konoha ninja. For a long time, they had been kept in the dark about the abuse and about the events leading up to his banishment. Shikamaru knew some of the details, but Ino thought that the lazy Nara was yanking her chain. They were wrong on all counts. Naruto was banished from Konoha merely for doing his job, which was to bring back the Uchiha. Banished because of the bigotry he faced as a Jinchuriki, out of blatant favoritism towards the last Uchiha, and because of greed, plain and simple. What was worse was that their senseis and their parents all had a hand in either trying to break Naruto or to outright kill him. Shikamaru looked outside the window. The inn overlooked the sea. He also knew that there were Uzu Anbu nearby, on Naruto's orders. They were not prisoners, and were free to leave, but further contact with the Whirlpool Daimyo was forbidden. Shikamaru reached inside his vest and pulled out a picture of Asuma and of his team. The picture was taken shortly after completing the Shinobi Academy. Such a stark contrast from seeing their laid-back, chain-smoking sensei to the man who tried to kill Naruto as a child. The pain that Asuma had done to Naruto was directed at him. Shikamaru felt every slice, every broken bone that Asuma had given him. Without giving it a single thought, he gripped the picture and ripped it into several pieces. Tomorrow, the team would leave in the morning. Upon returning to Konoha, they were going to have a long chat with Tsunade and Jiraiya, war be damned. Shikamaru was starting to see, as well as his teammates and Tenten, that Konoha had a lot of skeletons in their closet aside from the Uchiha massacre and the Hyuga Kumo incident. Shikamaru looked at his Hitai-8. Despite his lazy nature, he was a Konoha shinobi through and through. Now, his faith in the leaf was visibly shaken. The idea of abandoning Konoha was starting to get even more attractive after what he had just witnessed. He also knew that the others were starting to feel the same way. And if they fail to get the answers they deserved, then there will be 4 more missing ninja added to the bingo book. The following morning, final preparations were made in the town of Azura, as the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament was starting the next day. Inside the daimyo's residence, Naruto and Hinata were chatting over breakfast when it was interrupted by the arrival of a Neo-Uzu Anbu. He was not alone, as there was an AIM courier ninja beside him. "What is it?" Naruto asked, annoyed that his time with his wife was being interrupted. "Forgive me, Lord Daimyo, but there is someone from AIM here to see you," the Anbu replied. The courier ninja bowed to the daimyo and his wife, before producing a scroll. "Lord Namikaze. Lady Namikaze. General Hanzo sends his regards." After handing over the scroll, the AIM ninja and the Uzu Anbu left the couple alone. After making sure that the scroll was not booby-trapped, Naruto opened it. Inside was a copy of the surrender document signed by the Fire Lord, along with a small note attached to the document. Naruto scanned the note before passing both items over to Hinata. Snafu's notes. The song used as Konoha is destroyed as fitting. Feel free to listen to it as you read Konoha's destruction. I would love to see the Consequences series on the TV Tropes page. And check out my profile for a new challenge. Find the Street Fighter reference within the chapter. After this, will be the epilogue. About 3 weeks after the Konoha envoy had left for Azura. The tension was very high in Konohagakure no Sato. Their salvation lied in the one they had tried to kill. There were no civilians left in the city. Only ninja. After the last attack, which had destroyed the market district, the remaining civilians were evacuated from the city and sent to other villages in Fire Country. The village was locked down tight. At the moment, it was nearly dawn. Hanabi and the Hyuga were patrolling the main road leading to the massive village gates. The Junin ninja, now reduced to less than half of its strength, patrolled the city streets. The Root Anbu, now under Tsunade's control following the death of Sasuke Uchiha, patrolled the streets alongside the remaining Junin. There were no Chunin-level ninja, as Tsunade had express promoted them to Junin. Things looked grim, but Tsunade and Jiraiya held out hope that Naruto's love for Konoha would save them. If they only knew. As the run rose over Fire Country, Hanabi noticed the scroll that was attached to the gate. A quick scan of her Bikogan showed that was not booby-trapped with exploding tags or poison of any kind. Flagging down a passing Anbu, she ordered her to take the scroll to the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower. Jiraiya was summoned to the office of the Hokage minutes after the scroll was delivered. He found Tsunade behind the desk, the color drained from her face, the scroll opened. "What is it?" the old pervert asked. With shaky hands, Tsunade handed over the scroll to her former partner. Soon, Jiraiya's expression matched that of the busty Hokage. What had been delivered to Konoha's doorstep was a copy of the terms of surrender, signed weeks earlier by the Fire Lord, Ryohojin Hanzo and Kuretsuchi. "The Fire Lord sold us out," Tsunade whispered. "We're considered expendable." Kaboom! The embattled Godime and her former partner turned to the window, where the massive explosion had literally blasted the door off its hinges, the massive doors flipping end over end like a pair of oversized shurikens, crushing any Konoha ninja that failed to get out of its way. Tsunade knew that Hanabi and the majority of the main branch Hyuga were stationed at the front gates when it blew. She had hoped that the Hyuga clan head's death was painless. Ninja came charging in, weapons drawn, wearing the symbols of rain and stone. As the Konoha ninja engaged the invading forces, both former Sannin came to a horrifying realization. Hanzo's demand of a match with Naruto was a decoy to allow his forces and those of the stone to move in for the kill. Hanzo's gambit had paid off in spades. He knew of Naruto and of his past as a Konoha ninja and had used that against them while forcing the Fire Lord to hand over Konoha to be destroyed by his and Iwa's forces. Naruto wasn't coming. The leaf was done for. The siege of Konoha has begun. Naruto was never going to help us, wasn't he? Tsunade asked as she and Jiraiya watched from the Hokage Tower the deadly battle that was taking place. "I don't think so," the perverted hermit replied. "Never thought he would. Should have known that Hanzo would use Naruto against us. We fell for it. Then again, after what we tried to do to him, we're not exactly his favorite people now, aren't we?" Tsunade nodded. "So this is it, then. The leaf goes out not with a whimper, but with a bang. Seems that way. Wish I could die in my bed. But dying in battle isn't too bad. Let's make the Shinigami wait a while longer." Tsunade nodded. If Konoha was doomed, might as well make Hanzo and Kuretsuchi earn their prize. If Konoha was to fall, then they would take as many enemy ninja with them as they can. 1 week later, the siege of Konoha was indeed brutal. Tsunade and Jiraiya made good on their promise. Iwa had expected a quick victory, but Hanzo knew better. Konoha's back was to the wall and despite inflicting casualties, Konohagakure stubbornly fought on. On the third day of the siege, Tsunade Senju, the Godime Hokage, granddaughter of Hashirama Senju, grandniece of Tobarama Senju, was killed in battle. But not before seriously injuring Kuretsuchi with her super strength. With their leader injured in battle, Iwa retreated. Hanzo, deciding that discretion was the better part of valor, decided to pull back his forces as well. Jiraiya, however, did not get through this battle unscathed. The poisons used by Rashojin's great-grandfather were very deadly, and even now they were no exception. A well-aimed Senbon needle laced with the salamander's poison nailed Jiraiya in the neck, a parting gift from Hanzo before pulling his forces back. 2 days after Tsunade's death, Jiraiya received word through his spy network that AIM and Iwa were now planning to launch a Leave No Survivors assault on the village. Hanzo's previous offer of mercy was now suspended. There would be no mercy. Jiraiya thanked his informant, then issued his final order. His information network was to be disbanded. After all, why would a dead man need an information network? Office of the Hokage, shortly before the fall. Jiraiya knew he didn't have long. The remaining Konoha ninja had taken up positions in the area surrounding the Hokage Tower and in Danzu's underground route headquarters. The protection seals kept AIM and Iwa's forces out, but it wouldn't be long before those seals gave out. The poison in his veins was taking its toll. Either he would die fighting or he would succumb to the poison. From the look of things, it would be the latter. His vision cleared long enough to see the unhappy faces of Shikamaru Nara, Tenten, Ino Yamanaka and Choji Akamiki. I know I've let you down. I've been a fool to myself. I thought I could live for no one else. You're late, Jiraiya said. Where's Tsunade? Ino demanded. Dead. Killed in action just the other day. It's over. Konoha is finished. Hanzo's demand to fighting Naruto was just a ploy to let our guard down. He refused. By the way, Tenten said. After what we learned, I really don't blame him. But now through all the hurt and pain, it's time for me to respect. The ones you love mean more than anything. Now Jiraiya's interest was piqued. He leaned forward, ignoring the pain in his body. How much did he tell you? Everything. He showed us the abuse and the assassination attempts on his life by the villagers, our senseis, even our parents, Ino seethed. And I'm guessing that he told you the truth about the Uchiha mission, right? The four ninja nodded. Outside the ruined village, Rashojin Hanzo and the interim Tsuchikage watched as the seals keeping them outside Konoha were starting to fail. So with sadness in my heart, I feel the best thing I could do is end it all, and leave forever. One of Hanzo's lieutenants approached the AIM warlord. Your orders, General Hanzo. Leave no survivors, Hanzo ordered. Show no mercy. Destroy any jutsu you find. Anything else is fair game. At that moment, the seal sputtered, then gave out. Hanzo and Kuretsuchi, with her torso bandaged, and one arm in a sling, gave the order to move out. Back inside the office. Why did you do this to Naruto? Ino demanded, while Choji cracked his knuckles and Tenten had several kunai in her hands. Why did you lie to us about the banishment orders? If anything, Sasuke should have been banished. For the record, I wasn't crazy about the Uchiha like the council and the Fire Lord was, Jiraiya said, deciding to come clean for once in his life. The Fire Lord, Danzo and those two elder councilmen, and the civilian side of the council worshipped the ground that the Uchiha walked on. But we were both united in our hatred for Naruto for our own selfish reasons. His father was my student, a prodigy in the Fuinjutsu arts. I should have been happy that he surpassed me in skill. Instead, I became jealous at his success, especially when he created the Hiraishin. What's done is done, it feels so bad. What once was happy now is sad. I'll never love again. My world is ending. Jiraiya paused for a moment to cough into a handkerchief. Shikamaru noticed that there were specks of blood on the soft cloth. Outside, the forces of General Hanzo and Kuretsuchi began to slaughter the remaining shinobi forces, before being delayed by a second set of seals. Here, 3 squads of Root Anbu delayed them, with orders to kill as many of the enemy ninja as they could before they were brought down. I thought that I had some more to teach Minato, Jiraiya continued. But there was nothing else. Then he married Kushina, who was trained here in Konoha, but was the daughter of the Whirlpool daimyo. I knew that Kushina was very wealthy, given her status as royalty, and combined her wealth with the Namikaze wealth, they were the richest couple in Konoha. When Naruto was to be banished, I saw my chance to get a piece of the wealth that was stored inside the estates. I acted purely out of greed. Why did Tsunade go along with the banishment? Why did she blame Naruto for her death? Ino demanded. Tsunade and Kushina were very close. Tsunade did not have any children and saw Kushina as a surrogate daughter. Tsunade did not know that Kushina was the Jinchuriki to the 9 tails, as was her grandmother was before Kushina, and as Naruto after his mother. Tsunade once told me that Naruto took his first breath by taking Kushina's last. She had opted to kill Naruto herself when we retrieved her after the Sandame's death, but she stayed her hand. I wish that I could turn back time. 'Cause now the guilt is all mine. Can't live without the trust from those you love. Explosions were heard outside, as the explosive traps were triggered, having been laid there by what remained of the Anbu, decimating the Iwa ninja. Jiraiya and Tsunade had seen that the main city streets were booby-trapped in the same fashion. If Konoha was to fall, then Hanzo and Kuretsuchi would have to work for it. Our friends died because of the elders' ignorance. Ino shouted. You took the Yondaime's legacy and tried to butcher it. Konoha lost everything because of your hatred towards Naruto. I know, and for that, I deserve no sympathy, Jiraiya said. Minato entrusted Naruto to the both of us, as we were both his godparents. Off their shocked looks, the dying man continued. But, Tsunade and I wanted nothing to do with him, and we left him at the mercy of the people. Iruka's friendship towards Naruto was false. Tsuki and Ayame tried to poison him to death. Hell, I even tossed him into a ravine. Naruto summoning the boss Toad was a fluke. The remaining Root Anbu, led by Sai, confronted Rashojin Hanzo. I know we can't forget the past. You can't forget love and pride. Because of that it's killing me inside. As the Iwa and AIM forces engaged the emotionless elite of the Nei, Sai fought Rashojin Hanzo, forcing the AIM warlord on the offensive with his ink jutsus. Inside the office, I confess that I betrayed the Sandaime. My student. As much as I hate to admit, Naruto held the ideals that Hashirama Senju once had, the will of fire, Jiraiya said. He smiled sadly. Just like his father, he would have brought Konoha to greatness without force. I will tell you all something. It was the Uchiha, particularly Madara Uchiha, who unleashed the Nine Tails in a frenzied state upon Konohagakure. It was Fugaku Uchiha who plotted a coup d'état. And it was Itachi Uchiha who slaughtered the Uchiha clan not to test his limits, but to stop a civil war. I let my ego and my pride cloud my judgment. Tsunade let her hatred cloud hers. Naruto was not the nine-tailed fox in a human body. He was just an innocent boy in all of this mess. Sai's body fell to the ground, his neck broken. Rashojin Hanzo turned from his men, who were finishing off the remaining members of the Root Anbu. He looked at his prize, the Hokage Tower, which sat in the distance. The seals were a hindrance, but he knew that Konoha was finished. He planned to thoroughly clean out the village of anything that wasn't nailed down. Then he would destroy all of its prized jutsu, be it elemental or clan techniques. The Hokage Tower he would save for last. Inside the office, you four are the last of the Rookie 11, Jiraiya said. You can stay, fight and die, or you can make a new life for yourselves. Like I said, Konoha is finished. The seals will only keep AIM and Iwa out for so long. As acting Hokage, I relieve you four of your duties. Get out while you still can. It's too late for me. But it's not too late for you. Hanzo's forces are coming down the main street, which means you have a 30-minute window to get whatever you need from your homes. Use the hidden route inside the graveyard behind the Shadaime's grave to escape. It all returns to nothing, it all comes tumbling down, tumbling down, tumbling down. We can't just leave you here. Choji objected. You can and you will, Jiraiya said as he retrieved a chest from under the table and opened it. Inside were exploding tags. Chakra-powered exploding tags. More than enough to level the Hokage Tower. Something I picked up from Naruto, Jiraiya said, remembering the booby-trapped chest inside the Namikaze estates. He tossed Shikamaru a storage scroll. That should be enough for the four of you to start over. I think 20 million Ryo should do the trick. You're almost out of time. Get out of here. He smiled. Good luck. Shikamaru nodded. Then he and the others left Jiraiya to his fate. Once they were gone, Jiraiya activated a second set of seals. Exploding seals, with a 10-second delay. He turned to the window and watched as Iwa and AIM made their way down the main streets, block by block. It wouldn't be long now. Turning back to the desk, he found Tsunade's sake stash inside a drawer. Shrugging his shoulders, he decided on one last drink. Pulling out the bottle of the strong drink, he found several photos at the bottom of the drawer. Jiraiya pulled them out as he undid the cork. Since there were no drinking cups, he decided to just knock the whole bottle back. It all returns to nothing, I just keep letting me down, letting me down, letting me down. The first picture was of himself, Tsunade and Orochimaru, back when they were genin, along with a younger Hiruzen Sarutobi. I up big time, Sensei, Jiraiya whispered. Konoha up big time when it came to Naruto. If we only treated him better instead of treating him like he was a pariah, Konoha would not be in its final moments. You would be proud of him, Sensei. He would have made a great Hokage, had he was given the chance. You saw that in him. He was unlike the Uchiha, thinking he could get something for nothing. He doesn't deserve our forgiveness. At the residential district, Shikamaru, Ino, Tenten and Shuza went to work. They cleaned out their homes of any cache and of family jutsu scrolls. Tenten made a side trip to the Hyuga compound, where there were several remaining cadet branch ninja pilfering the compound. It was there that Tenten learned of Hanabi's ultimate fate. Knowing well that she was pregnant with Neji's child, the branch clan handed the weapons master copies of the Jiyuken scrolls, and told her to leave. Tenten nodded in thanks and left the remaining ninja to their devices, but not before warning them that they had less than 30 minutes to get out before Hanzu's forces breached the seals guarding the residential districts. In my heart of hearts, I know that I could never love again. I've lost everything. Once they were prepared, they met at the grave of the Shadaime. Their Hitai Atesh and flak vests were left behind inside their homes, which they set fire to in order to deny Hanzo and Iwa anything of value. Knapsacks slung over their shoulders, they were ready to go. So, this is it, Shikamaru said. Never thought that Konoha would see its last days. Where do we go now? Ino asked. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere with plenty of food, Choji said as he finished off some chips. Everything that matters to me matters in this world. Choji's right about being somewhere neutral, Ino said. We're the last of what Konoha should have been. We need to stick together. We'll head for Sea Country and rest up. Then we'll decide on our next move. With that, Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akamaiki, and Tenten made their final escape from Konohagakure no Sato. They never looked back. Inside the Hokage's office, Jiraiya found pictures of Minato and Kushina on their wedding day, and at home while Kushina was pregnant, along with pictures of Naruto with an elder Sarutobi, and of Minato and himself. Tsunade still blames Naruto for Kushina's death. Minato, Jiraiya confessed, the sake now gone. He was fading, and fading fast. It wasn't the Gaki's fault. If my pride and jealousy of you being a better seal master did not get to me, then I would have been at Naruto's side when the banishment orders came down. But you would have been proud of him, both you and Kushina. He's not Hokage, but the daimyo of Whirlpool. He revived her homeland. I wasn't worth the ground he walked on. Your son was better. I wish that I could turn back time. 'Cause now all the guilt is mine. Can't live without the trust from those you love. Outside the shattered window, he could hear Hanzo shouting orders. Secure the tower. I know Jiraiya is still alive somewhere. Bring him to me. As the ninja charged into the tower, Jiraiya let loose a small smile. With this final act, he would deny Rashojin Hanzo and Kuratsuchi the pleasure of displaying his corpse for all to see. Wish I could go out in style, he murmured as he held the photos close, his heart slowing down. I was hoping in bed with two ladies. Oh well, at least I could take out some more ninja before I go. He sighed. If only we treated Naruto better. Minato. Kushina. Sensei. Naruto. I am so sorry. With those words on his lips, Jiraiya breathed his last breath, and died. I know we can't forget the past. You can't forget love and pride. Because of that, it's killing me inside. Not long after Jiraiya's death, AIM Ninja burst into the room. All they found was one dead former Sannin, clutching several photos to his chest, and a closed chest resting on the desk. Thinking that there was something valuable inside the chest, the three AIM Ninja opened it. And the exploding tags and the seals Jiraiya had set around the office and all over the Hokage Tower activated. Ka-boom. Outside there was a flash of white, which was followed by the explosion, killing any AIM and Iwa ninja that were inside. The tower that collapsed onto itself, leaving nothing but debris and rubble. The blast waved through the invading ninja back, Rashojin included. The great-grandson of the salamander rose to his feet, and looked at the burning ruins of the Hokage Tower. So, Jiraiya was there after all, Hanzo thought. Well played, old man. But in the end futile. It all returns to nothing, it all comes tumbling down, tumbling down, tumbling down. Indeed, it was futile. Upon Jiraiya's death, the seals had failed, allowing full access to the village. Turning to the Aim and Iwa ninja, he declared victory. The leaf has been crushed. Take whatever spoils you can carry. Destroy any jutsu you find. Konohagakure no Sato is finished. With that, the looting began. The Fire Capital, Fire Daimyo's residence. With the majority of the occupational forces down in Konoha, the Fire Daimyo decided to act. After one final visit of his family, he designated his eldest son as his successor before locking himself inside his office. The Fire Lord sat behind his desk, looking over the document which he had signed, turning over Konoha to slaughter. Hanzo was thorough. The civilians who had escaped Konoha were forbidden to leave Fire Country in order to start over. In effect, they were like him, prisoners inside their own homeland. It all returns to nothing, I just keep letting me down, letting me down, letting me down. He sat back in his chair, the tanto in his hands. He had hidden it inside his office, and the AIM forces had failed to find it. The blade was unsheathed, already stained with his blood, having sliced his wrists. The burden of selling out his integrity in exchange for his family's lives had proven too much for him to bear. He had hoped with his final sacrifice, that he would at least find some redemption in the life thereafter. It all returns to nothing, it all comes tumbling down, tumbling down, tumbling down. He would be found dead inside his office an hour later by his AIM guards. Ruins of Konohagakure no Sato, dawn. Konohagakure no Sato, once the strongest of the shinobi villages, was in flames. Rashojin Hanzo watched the city burn with an impassive look in his eyes. The city had been picked clean, its jutsu destroyed. He even decimated the remaining root Anbu in Danzu's underground headquarters by flooding the underground base with the salamander's poison, following by destroying all exits with several exploding tags. Kuretsuchi and her Iwa ninja had long since left the battlefield, taking with them the spoils of war. Out of respect, did Hanzo order the graveyard not to be touched. The siege was over, but he had to admit that Konoha made him work for the victory. Over a quarter of AIM's ninja force had been killed, and it would take some time to recover. One of his lieutenants approached him. General Hanzo, we received word that 4 Konoha ninja has escaped the village. Only 4, Hanzo repeated, disinterested. Yes, General. Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akamaiki and Tenten. Your orders. Hanzo thought long and hard for a moment. They are of no consequence to us. Our mission is accomplished. Consider this a mercy to the remnants. However, should they try to kill me, I will be more than willing to send them to meet their family and friends. Sir. Another ninja appeared. Word from the Fire Capital. The Fire Lord was found in his office. He's dead, General. Hanzo nodded. Withdraw our forces from the capital. We are returning to Omegakure. It all returns to nothing, I just keep letting me down, letting me down, letting me down. By the end of the week, the news would spread throughout the elemental countries. Konoha had fallen to AIM and Iwa. Most of the people's reactions outside of Fire Country came up to just 2 words, good riddance. The destruction of Konoha had not left a power vacuum as expected. Konoha had long since lost its status as the powerful of the shinobi villages. Neo Uzushiogakur was now the most powerful, Suna and Iwa tied for second place. The people of Fire Country, their pride was broken with the loss of their village and of their wealth. Even Wave Country under Gato's rule was better off than Fire Country. The old saying was indeed true. Pride does come before the fall. Neo Uzushiogakur, 3 days after Konoha's destruction. The message from the Anbu was brief, yet satisfying. Konohagakure destroyed. Fire Lord committed suicide. Tsunade Senju, confirmed KIA. Jiraiya, confirmed KIA. Hanabi Hyuga, confirmed KIA. Nara, Yamanaka, Akamaiki and Tenten confirmed missing. Omegakure and Iwagakure forces returned back to their villages. Naruto read it once again before setting the slip of paper down. Konoha was gone. Out of the entire shinobi force, only 4 known survivors. The assault had taken place during the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament. In a way, it was justice. A long time coming, but it was justice. He shared the news with Hinata as they sat over lunch inside his office within the Neo-Uzu compound. It's finally over, Hinata said. Konoha is gone. Naruto nodded. He could have destroyed Konoha any time. But he chose not to, deciding to let Konoha dig their own grave. For Fire Country, the destruction of the Leaf and the suicide of their leader will probably be the most important day of their lives, Naruto mused. Really? His wife rebuked. So what was it for the both of us? Naruto smiled at his wife. For us, it was Tuesday. Hinata chuckled and the couple resumed eating. Maru asked me to relay a message to you. He wants to lead a group of ninja to the ruins to recover the ashes of the first 4 Hokages. Naruto grunted. The idea does have merit. They deserve a better resting place than in the ruins of a soon-to-be-forgotten city. Tell Maru that I will accompany him. We will leave for Konoha by the end of the week. Besides, I always wanted to piss on the ashes of the Leaf. Hinata shook her head. Honestly, why do I even bother with you? She said in a teasing tone. Because you've been nuts over me since our Genin days. Whatever. I'll tell Moegi, and she will relay the message to Maru. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Hinata Namikaze, Anko Mitarashi, Katami Akashiya, and Team Misfits were returning to Konoha after being away for so many years. They were not alone, though, as an escort of Neo-Uzu Anbu were escorting them, as well as Minato and Hitomi Namikaze was accompanying them to their parents' ancestral village. It was an S-ranked assignment ordered by Naruto himself, the recovery of the ashes of the first 4 Hokages, Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and Minato Namikaze, as well as the ashes of Naruto mother and predecessor, Whirlpool Daimyo Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Unlike the Konoha team, whose trip had taken them 2 weeks just to get to Whirlpool, it only took Naruto and his team 1 week from start to finish to arrive in Fire Country, then onto the Konoha ruins. The destruction of Konoha came after the conclusion of the Whirlpool Taijutsu tournament. Tsunade and Jiraiya were dead, as were the majority of the Hyuga clan. Aside from Tenten and the Ino Cho trio, several main and cadet branch members of the Hyuga escaped, and had hooked up with the 4 missing Junin, from what Naruto had learned from his information network. Hikaru and Kasumi Sarutobi, ages 10 and 7 respectively, the daughters of the late Asuma and Kurenai Sarutobi, had escaped with the civilians when Konoha ordered its civilians to be evacuated. Before heading out of Fire Country, the Ino Cho trio and Tenten found them and retrieved them from the civilian remnant that was in hiding before fleeing the country. They owed Asuma and Kurenai that much. Luckily, they found out that their parents did not poison their minds about the Jinchuriki. Deciding to keep their crimes in regards to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki a secret, they decided not to tell Hikaru and Kasumi, which would destroy their impression of their parents. Better to have them think that their parents died honorably. Naruto knew where they were hiding, and even he knew from experience that the life of a mercenary, missing ninja was not an easy one. His own children were born in Suna, and had traveled with him and Hinata before he decided to revive Whirlpool. So after talking it over with Konan, he decided to do the one thing nice for anyone from Konoha. After all, only Shikamaru and Choji were the ones who showed him kindness despite their parents' attempts to kill him. Ino had grown out of her obsession over the Uchiha following the retrieval mission, deciding to let Sakura have him. Then there was the fact that Tenten was now a widow, having married Neji in secret, thus making Tenten the de facto head of the Hyuga, as she carried the branch clan head's child in her womb. The marriage became public thanks to Hanabi, but before Neji could be reprimanded for marring someone out of the Hyuga clan, Rashojin Hanzo had invaded Fire Country. With Conan approving of the situation, he dispatched an Neo-Uzu courier ninja to Sea Country with the following terms: asylum in Whirlpool Country, with the rank of Junin. Of course, they would be on probation for 1 year and their missions would be limited to mostly patrols in Whirlpool, Wave and North Whirlpool. Should they wish it, Hikaru and Kasumi would be enrolled in the Neo-Uzu Shinobi Academy. The offer was also extended to the surviving Hyuga, with the promise that the caged bird seal would be forever banned so long as the Hyuga serve Neo-Uzu. Both Naruto and Hinata were dressed in their combat gear from their days as mercenary ninja. Even though Naruto was the daimyo, he was still a ninja overall. As they approached the destroyed village, Naruto and Hinata separated themselves from the group to walk around, while ordering Maru and the others to meet up at the graveyard, but not before taking Minato and Hitomi with them. Katami decided to tag along with the Namikaze family. So, this was your home? Where you and mom grew up? Minato asked as they followed their parents through the village. Naruto nodded. Yeah, things were different back then. I was an orphan denied my family legacy, despite old man Sarutobi's efforts. She was the heiress to the Hyuga clan. Your uncle Maru, he was not that much younger than me. I met him inside Sarutobi's office. He accused me of stepping on his scarf, which was longer than he was. So what are we doing here? Hitomi asked. This place is a wreck. Closure. Mostly, Hinata replied. Konohagakure has tried to kill your father and me for a long time. Only when he became the Whirlpool daimyo did they almost stopped altogether. We didn't tell you this, but they tried to kidnap you a couple of years ago. Because of our dojutsu? Minato asked. Naruto nodded. Because of your dojutsu. The orphanage where Naruto had spent the first 6 years of his life was nothing but rubble, as was the run-down apartment where Sarutobi had set him up in. The Uchiha district had long since been destroyed, as the Hokage had cordoned the entire area off. The Konoha hospital, nothing but debris, the final resting place of Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. Last, was the Hokage Tower, Jiraiya's resting place. Naruto made good on Hanzo's suggestion and promptly emptied his bladder onto the debris. In truth, this was Naruto's second time in returning to the village. When the attempt to kidnap Minato and Hitomi had failed, Naruto had personally infiltrated Konoha, disguised as an Anbu Black Ops operative with the intent of killing Sasuke Uchiha. But instead stayed his hand. He had beaten Cell 7, and that was the end of it. The dead last was clearly stronger than his former teammates and sensei. Using a root Anbu which he had hypnotized with his Rinnegan, he gained access to Danzu's underground root headquarters. There, now under the henge of a root operative, Naruto found Danzu's files on himself, Hinata, their 2 children, and those regarding Hanzo the Salamander and Rashojin Hanzo and the Tsushigake, Kuretsuchi. Danzo kept meticulously detailed files on those who he in his eyes were the threats to Konoha and to himself. Danzo also left detailed information about how he betrayed Hanzo in the Second Shinobi War, of how his root Anbu slaughtered Hanzo's family and supporters, and of his plans to assassinate Rashojin Hanzo should he ever come to power in Omegakure, not to mention orchestrating the assassination of Kuretsuchi's grandfather, Onoki. Even damning was the fact that the Fire Lord himself had signed the Blackout Order. It was then, Naruto decided to formulate a plan. A plan which would lead to Konoha's downfall. He left with the files and escaped from Konoha once again without drawing the attention of the Konoha ninja, but not before torching Ichiraku's ramen as payback for Tyuki and Ayame poisoning his ramen. Once he was in Wind Country under the pretense of visiting Gaara, he sent the copies of the files to AIM. Hanzo did not know who had sent the files, of course, but Naruto knew that should Hanzo come to power, then Danzo will try to assassinate him. As expected, Hanzo was on his guard. So when Naruto received word that AIM had invaded Fire Country, he was not surprised. Hinata knew, of course, as he was the one who told her the same day that the notice about the invasion came in. Flashback. Office of the Hokage. You know that Konoha will more than likely ask for our help, Hinata said. They always believed that you would defend your precious people in their darkest hour. Naruto scoffed. The people that are precious to me are here. Konoha chose a traitor over me. They did not see me as a human being, but rather the Nine Tails reborn. Some of them hate the Uchiha runt, but they despise me even more. People I thought were my friends tried to kill me over the years. Tsuki and Ayane with their poisoned ramen, your own sensei with her genjutsu. Even Tsunade and Jiraiya wanted my death for their own selfish reasons. The daimyo of Whirlpool rose from his seat. I will not aid Konoha in this mess of their own choosing. Even if they offer me the position of Hokage, I would not accept it. They made their choice. Now they have to live with it, which is not for very long. Is there something you're not telling me? Hinata asked. Whatever you mean, Hinaheim. Hinata folded her arms across her chest. You're a lousy liar, Naruto. I know you're up to something. So, it's part of the job. Naruto. Fine. Naruto reached into his desk drawer and pulled out several manila folders. He handed 2 of them to Hinata. Remember when the Uchiha and Hiashi tried to kidnap our children by using the Hyuga ninja and the root Anbu? Hinata nodded. I left a shadow clone here and followed the Hyuga ninja back to Konoha, Naruto confessed. He then gave her the whole story, about how he planned on using the Rinnegan to cause havoc, but instead snuck into Danzu's root headquarters and stole the files on his family and on Rashojin Hanzo. You made copies and sent them anonymously to Rashojin Hanzo? Hinata guessed. To warn him of Konoha's intentions. Naruto nodded. I thought about going to war with Konoha for the slights they had done to us. But instead, we'll let someone else do the fighting. Someone who has a valid grudge towards Danzo and the others. I knew that Konoha would try something funny, so I sent him the files as a heads-up warning. It can't be traced back to me. For all he knows, it could be the Shinigami who sent him those files. I'm also betting that Iwa would also want in on destroying Konoha, due to the bad blood between the two from back when my old man Hiraishin ed most of the Iwa forces into oblivion. But, since we both had ties to Konoha, they would worry about us joining in on Konoha's side. So they will need some reassurance in us keeping out of the war. Once I make my intentions personally clear, only then will they invade the leaf and burn it to the ground. And how will you do just that? Hinata asked. Easy. Aim will come to us. Afterward, we sit back and wait. Too bad we have to leave for Azura. I would love to be there when Konoha finally get their comeuppance. Just sit back and watch the mayhem unfold with a nice drink and some popcorn. And what about the Konoha 11? Not all of them are guilty. They did treat us with some kindness. Kiba wanted to get into your pants. Neji still hates your guts after you kicked his twice. Sasuke and Sakura, they want me dead. Shino and Rock Lee are somewhere down the middle, and the Ino Shikacho and Tenten, they were the only ones who didn't treat us like crap. He smiled evilly. I know that Konoha will send someone here to ask for aid in this war. Kinda ironic, don't you think? That their intended savior is the one responsible for their destruction. Konoha's downfall was bound to happen sooner or later. I'm just giving it a little in the form of Hanzo and Kuretsuchi. Some people would call that hubris, Hinata said. It's only hubris if I fail, Naruto replied. Either way, the files can't be traced to me. End flashback. I never should have doubted you, love, Hinata acquiesced. You truly live up to your title of being the most unpredictable ninja. I know. It was one hell of a gambit, though, Naruto admitted, as they stopped in front of what used to be the Hyuga compound. All was left was a smoking ruin, just like everywhere else. But it paid off. Indeed it has, Hinata replied. Konoha Graveyard. The graveyard was left untouched, as per Hanzu's orders. Once Naruto and Hinata had arrived, the digging began, Maru and Naruto uncovering the ashes of Hiruzen Sarutobi, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Namikaze, while the ninja unearthed the remains of Tobarama Senju and Hashirama Senju. In all, 4 urns were recovered, one of them containing the remains of both Minato and Kushina, as it was in his will that their ashes share the same urn, thus being together in death. With great care and reverence, the urns were stored in a storage scroll. With nothing else left for them in Konohagakure, the Neo-Uzu contingent left for Neo-Uzushiogakur. Neo-Uzushiogakur no Sato, 1 week later. In a quiet, solemn ceremony, the remains of Daimyo Kushina Namikaze and her husband were laid to rest inside the Uzu cemetery. The Senju brothers and Hiruzen Sarutobi were also laid to rest by Maru's hand. Returning to the village, the Namikaze family and Team Misfits found an unexpected surprise waiting for them. The Konoha remnants, consisting of the Ino Shika Cho trio, Tenten, and 30 Hyuga ninja. It was apparent that they had received and accepted Naruto's invitation of asylum. While Naruto was away, the courier ninja found Shikamaru and the others and delivered his message. After spending several hours taking about it, they decided that working for Naruto wouldn't be a bad thing. Having been elected as spokesman, not by his choice, Shikamaru approached Naruto. The Whirlpool Daimyo did the same. "I see you received my message," Naruto said. "We did," Shikamaru said. "And we all agreed. We don't know you and Hinata survived as mercenary ninja, but it's too troublesome for us. We accept your offer of asylum." Naruto nodded. "Good. How many you have with you?" 30 Cadet Branch Hyuga, 5 Main Branch Hyuga, Ino, Choji, myself, Tenten, and Asuma Senator. I mean Asuma's girls. Sarutobi had kids? Naruto asked. With Kurenai. We'll have them enlisted in the Shinobi Academy immediately. I will warn you only once. This is a one-time act of mercy, as you and your 3 friends showed kindness to me and Hinata. Any acts of treachery from you or the others, and they will not be around to argue. Are we clear? Shikamaru nodded. Very. You may go. Conan will see to it that you and the others are given a place to stay. Thanks. Accompanied by several Anbu, Shikamaru and the others left. Naruto returned to Hinata and the others. He dismissed the impromptu honor guard and returned home with his wife, the smile never leaving his face. It was the smile one would have where friends were reconciled. It was one of victory and of vengeance having been served. Sure, Hanzo and Kuretsuchi had destroyed Konohagakure, but he was the silent partner of sorts, delivering the damning evidence he found inside the root headquarters into Hanzo's hands. He was able to do what Orochimaru had failed to do. He crushed Konoha. What made his victory even more sweeter was the fact that he did it without drawing his sword. Ironically, Konoha had banished him because he was capable of destroying Konoha. In the end, they were right, but they brought it down on themselves, aside the fact that Naruto did not need the power of the 9 tails in order to do so. In the end, it all came down to honoring the final wishes of the Yondaime. Had Konohagakure and the former Sannin did what Minato had asked, then none of this would have come to pass. Konoha would still be the most powerful of the shinobi nations, Sasuke would have been imprisoned for his attempted defection, and Naruto would have been recognized as a hero as per his father's wishes. Those who do evil will eventually face judgment, either in this life or the next, Naruto thought. Konoha loses, and I win. Through this, Fire Country will fall and Whirlpool will rise. Oh, who am I kidding? Whirlpool has already risen to great village status. Only difference is that I used diplomacy rather than Danzu's method, by the edge of a sword. A tradition that the Namikaze will follow for as long there is a need for shinobi. Ironically, the day of Konoha's destruction had fallen on a significant date. The day of his banishment following the Uchiha retrieval mission, which made his victory all the sweeter. It had taken 20 years, but Konohagakure had finally received its just dues. Snafu's notes. No more Mr. Nice Daimyo. Konoha had crossed the line with their kidnapping attempt of Minato and Hitomi. After getting a hold of the damning evidence from Danzu's root headquarters, instead of Naruto using it to warn Hanzo of Danzu's intentions, but instead uses the incriminating evidence to spearhead an invasion of Konoha. If revenge is a dish best served cold, then put on your Sunday finest. It's time to feast. Mr. Freeze, Batman and Robin. Konohagakure no Sato, Fire Country, Office of the Hokage, 2 days after the fall of Konohagakure. Inside the office of the Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze leaned back in the chair, eyes closed in thought. Outside of the Hokage Tower, half of Konoha was in flames. After 19 years of repeated attacks from minor villages, Konoha was severely weakened. Then, just 2 days ago, a coalition force of Neo Uzu, Suna, Kumo and Iwa ninja had invaded Fire Country from both sides, swiftly overtaking the Fire Capital and holding the Fire Lord hostage. And today, Konohagakure was no more. The Hidden Leaf village had fallen. It's ironic, Naruto thought to himself. My father, the Yondaime, saved Konoha and brought it to greatness, while his son orchestrated its demise. Just think that if Konoha had not tried to kidnap Minato and Hitomi, then none of this would have happened. After proving that he and his wife were stronger than their former teammates and their former village, Konoha was put on the backburner. He had beaten Cell 7, and that was the end of it. The dead last was clearly stronger than his former teammates and sensei. Hell, Neo Uzu made Chunin and Junin level ninja in half the time it took Konoha to produce shinobi of the same rank, and their weakest Chunin could kill 3 Junin level ninja. But when Danzo and Hiashi had sent Root Anbu to his home in an attempt to kidnap his son and daughter, that was the last straw. Naruto found the mission scroll on one of the Root Anbu. It was a co-op by Hiashi Hyuga and Danzo Shimura. Danzo would forcibly initiate Minato into the Root Anbu and either make him into a weapon for Konoha, or kill him and steal the Rinnegan. Hiashi wanted Hitomi placed under the caged bird seal and killed out of pure spite. After the failed mission, Naruto had personally infiltrated Konoha, disguised as an Anbu Black Ops operative with the intent of killing Sasuke Uchiha, Hiashi Hyuga and Danzo Shimura. But instead stayed his hand. Using a Root Anbu which he had hypnotized with his Rinnegan, he gained access to Danzu's underground Root headquarters. There, now under the henge of a Root operative, Naruto found Danzu's files on himself, Hinata, their 2 children, every major player in the elemental countries. Danzo had kept very detailed files about his past crimes, as well as files on the movers and shakers in the elemental countries. Several of Danzu's crimes was selling out Whirlpool to destruction in the last Shinobi War, hoping that with Kushina's death, he could have Konoha annex the nation. Much to Naruto's anger, he also sold out his father to Iwa, hoping that the stone would have killed him in the last Shinobi War. Danzo just didn't count on his father using the Hiraishin to slaughter the Iwa ninja en masse. Much to Naruto's rage, he saw that Danzo was responsible for the death of his mother. Kushina did not die in childbirth after all. She had been poisoned to death in order to remove her from the equation. He also backstabbed Hanzo the Salamander, the great-grandfather of Rashojin Hanzo, who was in command of Omegakure, orchestrated the assassination of Onoki, the previous Tsuchikage, and was planning to do the same to his successor, Kuretsuchi and the Earth Daimyo. Surprisingly enough, he did not know about Katami's true nature as the Biju Queen. Not even Daimyo Kazuhana and her family were safe from Danzu's schemes, as it was Danzo himself who secretly financed Dodo Kazuhana's coup against Koyuki's father in exchange for Spring's chakra armor and volley guns. He even saw the water daimyo in Mizukage Terumi as a serious threat, given how she had ended the bloodline wars in her native country. Even more worse, was that the Fire Lord had signed off on each order. He was the one who was pulling all the strings, with Danzo as his lieutenant. But the most damning piece of evidence was the series of notes that Danzo had taken, which had said that it was Sasuke Uchiha, a member of Danzu's root, who had recommended kidnapping the children. Retrieving the files on Iwa, Kumo and Suna, Naruto quickly made his exit. Returning to Whirlpool, he called for a meeting with Hinata, Anko, Katami, Yahiko and Konan. There, he showed them the files he pilfered from Danzu's underground base. After an all-night session, the daimyo of Whirlpool and his inner circle came to the same conclusion: Konoha had to pay, and the other shinobi nations had to be warned. He sent Rinnegan-powered shadow clones of himself to Wind, Earth and Lightning Country, with the incriminating files in hand, and upon arrival, requested a sit-down with the respective cages and daimyos. Naruto's clones showed them the incriminating files he had pilfered from Danzu's root base. By the end of the meeting, they all came to the same conclusion: Konoha and the fire daimyo had to be stopped. Despite repeated attacks from smaller villages over the near 2 decades, and the fact that they were no longer one of the 5 great nations, Konoha and Fire Country was still a threat. Naruto laid out the plan. 1 month from then, Sasuke Uchiha will be named as Rokudaime Hokage. All of Konoha would be out celebrating, which means there would be less patrols out and about. Naruto knew from experience that there would be no missions during the time that a new Hokage was chosen. Against Once Village, Konoha had a chance for survival, but against 5 shinobi villages. First, the Fire Lord had to be neutralized, which meant an invasion of the Fire Capital. Once the Fire Daimyo was secured, then it was on to Konohagakure no Sato. The gathered leaders did agree with Naruto on several points: that Danzo was a power-mad warhawk who wanted to destabilize the region. Worst-case scenario was that he would jump-start another shinobi war. Despite the occasional disputes from rival villages, the people of the elemental countries have grown to enjoy the peace and stability. Add the fact that Naruto's Whirlpool tournaments were instrumental in keeping the peace by allowing rival villages to vent without killing one another. The leaders have no desire to be pulled into another war of Danzu's making, nor would it be forced to bow to the mad warhawk with a god complex. Once Konoha was brought under the ninja coalition Foss's control, an assessment of the village's finances would be taken, from the cash in the village's treasury to the personal wealth of the clans. They would be liquidated and split evenly among Neo Whirlpool, Sand, Lightning, and Stone. All of the village's jutsu was to be destroyed. The Fire Lord will be forced to sign a treaty, in which in order for him to keep his post as ruler of Fire Country, he must not allow a shinobi village to be established in his lands. As for his former teammates, their families, their senseis and his ex-godparents, not to mention the civilian council, they would be dealt with by Naruto personally. Then, Konoha would be burned to the ground. Iwa, Suna, Kiri and Kumo agreed to Naruto's proposal. Thus, the allied shinobi force was born, with Naruto as the supreme commander. The mission was called Operation Yondaime's Wrath. It took only 3 weeks for the coalition forces to build their forces. Once they were ready, they made their move. 1 week before Sasuke's ascension to the seat of Hokage, a crack squad of Anbu from the 5 countries, plus Mist's reformed 7 swordsmen, invaded the Fire Capital in the dead of night. By the following morning, the people woke up to find that the Fire Capital had been occupied by invading forces. The Fire Daimyo's samurai forces had been stomped out, his 12 guardian ninja killed, and the Fire Lord himself taken hostage along with his family. Upon showing him the evidence of his crimes, the Fire Lord caved in and signed the terms of surrender, sealing Konoha's fate. By the following morning, Naruto had sent out copies of Danzu's files to the surrounding countries, revealing Konoha's treachery. When the invasion of Konoha began, it would be in every newspaper, every broadcast. Next, came the invasion of Konoha. The allied shinobi forces swarmed into the unsuspecting country, laying waste to every Konoha patrol and outpost. Not taking any chances, they even incinerated the messenger birds so that by the time Konoha knew what was happening, it would already be too late. Upon arriving in Konoha, Neo-Uzushiogakur's demolitions team set charges at the village gates, and at key points in the village's walls surrounding Konoha. Each member had their part to play. But those that had wronged Naruto, he would deal with himself. Naruto's orders. Spare the civilian population. Eliminate the shinobi. The charges were triggered, and before Konoha knew what the hell was going on, the allied shinobi forces swarmed into the city. Naruto had led the assault from the front gate, and made his intentions quite clear. Konohagakure no Sato. The Kyuubi brat has returned. I bring the destruction of your village. Minutes later, as Naruto's forces had carved a path of destruction through the Konoha shinobi, a counterattack led by the Rokudaime Hokage met Naruto as he was halfway to his destination, the Hokage Tower. The Neo-Uzu shinobi had their orders. Naruto had a bone to pick with this guy. Flashback. 2 days earlier, 2 former teammates, the dead last and the Uchiha elite, now the Whirlpool Daimyo and the Rokudaime Hokage, squared off on the rooftops near Konoha Stadium, Naruto in his battle uniform, Okatana in his hand, while Sasuke was clad in his Root Anbu uniform, complete with Chikudo. Below, the village was fighting a desperate battle for their survival. Sasuke had ordered the Root not to interfere, while Naruto ordered his coalition forces to do the same. Dobi, you saved me the trouble of actually planning an invasion of your cesspool of a country, Sasuke said. I told you once, Uchiha. You were alive because of my grace, Naruto replied, his voice as cold as ice. But you crossed the line when you ordered the kidnapping of my son and daughter. Ha, your little demon bastards should be honored to serve Konoha's will. Minato shows promise with that Rinnegan of his, and Hiashi, well, he wanted to kill little Hitomi out of spite for both you and Hinata. So tell me, Dobi, is your cute little wife a good ride? I'll find out when I kill you and take Hinata as my prize. Naruto kept his cool, but he knew how to push Sasuke's buttons. Have you learned anything new since our last encounter? For being part of the elite Anbu, you have failed in trying to kill me at the Valley of the End, despite your curse seal. You couldn't beat me even with the Scarecrow. And you couldn't beat me back in Whirlpool. Admit it, Uchiha. The dead last has surpassed the runt of the Uchiha clan. Itachi was a far better challenge than you. That did it. Shut up. You have no right to speak of him. I have every right, as I was the one who killed him, remember? He wanted you to kill him, but I took that from him. If there is any consolation, I gave him a quick, clean death. Sasuke's eyes glowed with rage, as his Chikudo's blade began to dance with lightning. You're dead, Naruto. You, your wife, your children, all of you, dead. Good. Because this is our final battle, Naruto said as his eyes morphed into the Rinnegan. You will die this very night, Sasuke Uchiha. End flashback. The final battle between Naruto and Sasuke was indeed brutal. Swords, jutsu, bare hands, nothing was out of bounds. Naruto could have summoned the toads, but he wanted to kill the Uchiha on his own terms. The battle had started on the roofs near the stadium, and ended inside the ruins of the Uchiha district. Naruto and Sasuke even lost hold of their swords and went at it hand to hand. When Naruto gained the upper hand in that contest, Sasuke responded by pulling out his trump card, the Eyes of the Betrayer, the Magankyu Sharingan. In a last-ditch effort, Sasuke unleashed Amaterasu, hoping to eliminate his nemesis once and for all. Flashback. Streets of the Uchiha district. Naruto watched as Sasuke's eyes morphed into that of the Magankyu. After fighting Itachi several times, Naruto knew what their capabilities were. So you got the Magankyu, Naruto said. Who'd you stab in the back to get those? Our former teammate. Just before the battle began, Sasuke smirked, remembering how he gutted Sakura before leading the counterattack. You should feel honored, Dobi, to die at my hands. I'll give your my regards. Amaterasu. Naruto smirked as the black flames sailed towards him. He had seen Itachi use this attack, and knew what to do. Too bad Sasuke did not notice the seal that was attached to his back. Hiraishin no Jutsu. The black flames had masked the trademark yellow flash, but Naruto appeared behind Sasuke, kunai in hand. You missed, Naruto deadpanned. But I didn't. Sasuke saw that something was wrong. Naruto was still alive. And he was choking on his own blood. Naruto had sliced his throat while performing the Hiraishin. As the black flames dissipated, Naruto retrieved his sword and Sasuke's Chikudo. Turning to face his teammate, who had sank to his knees, trying to hold his throat with both hands in an attempt to stave off his impending death, he looked at Naruto with all the hate he could muster. You lose, Uchiha, Naruto deadpanned. And I win. Give my regards to your brother. You. At that moment, Sasuke Uchiha keeled over, dead. The last Uchiha had fallen. The curse of hatred was extinguished. End flashback. Naruto had taken Sasuke's body and took it to the Hokage monument. Holding it high, he shouted to the remaining defenders of Konoha, your Rokudaime is dead. Surrender now, or die. Seeing the Kyuubi brat, with their leader's body had the desired effect. 2 hours after the battle had begun, Konohagakure no Sato surrendered. Almost immediately, the Konoha 11, their parents and their senseis were rounded up, their chakra sealed, and Kakashi's case, his Sharingan ripped out of his eye socket, and imprisoned inside the main grounds of the Konoha Stadium, along with the civilian council. Hiashi Hyuga was absent. Unknown to the others, Hinata had killed him herself. Like Naruto, she did not take too kindly to her father trying to kidnap her daughter. While Naruto had fought Sasuke, Hinata and Katami paid a visit to the Hyuga compound. Surprisingly enough, the cadet branch allowed her access, as there was a mass uprising from the cadet branch against the main branch. Neji, unfortunately, chose the wrong side and fought for the main branch, cutting down his fellow clansmen. Hinata's method in dealing with Neji was easy. She simply activated the caged bird seal and left him to die. Which he did. She had the surviving cadet branch Hyuga track down the Hyuga Council, her father and her sister. As it turned out, Hanabi was just like her father when it came to abusing the cadet branch. She even killed a female cadet branch member when it turned out she was in love with someone outside of the clan, a shinobi from Kumo. In retaliation, Hinata not only used her husband's seals to seal off their chakra, but also placed them under the caged bird seal en masse. Then she activated them and watched as the Hyuga Council, her father and sister died in agonizing pain. Hell hath no fury like a mother protecting her children. The surviving main branch ninja would be sent off to Kumo. The cadet branch would be taken to Neo Uzu. Danzo had died during the fighting, having been slain by both Naruto and Katami. Danzo thought that the bloodlines he had stolen from the Uchiha and from the Senju was more than enough to bring the daimyo of Whirlpool under his control. He was so very wrong. As he lay dying, his headquarters was being pilfered of everything that wasn't nailed down, his root dying all around him. He saw that the redhead woman was in fact the Nine Tails in human form, meaning that Naruto was not the Kyuubi reborn, but was in fact its former jailer. Speaking of the late Danzo, Naruto and the Shinobi Coalition commanders had taken his files from both his compound and from the underground root base. Once the city was under their control, they sat down and looked over the files of Danzo's crimes. Fortunately, as Danzo was dead, none of his plans would come to fruition, as he had failed. The village's jutsu were raided from the shinobi library was ransacked and destroyed. The village's finances were then audited by an independent firm from T country. No one, be it shinobi nor civilian, was spared from the audit. As expected, the Uchiha was the richest of the clans. Once the village's finances were liquidated, the 5 shinobi nations each received their cut. Iwa returned to their village with their share of the cash, content and happy with the results that Konoha will soon fall at the hands of the Yondaime's son. Kiri also returned to their native village, as did Kumo, leaving Suna alone with Neo Uzu. Kumo, Iwa, Kiri and Suna agreed to take the orphan children and the genin to their respective nations. Their minds would be erased of their time in Konoha and memories would be implanted to make sure that they would be loyal to their new villages. Then came the confrontation with what remained of the Konoha 11 the previous night. Flashback. Hokage Tower, Council Chambers, nighttime. The 6 remaining members of the Rookie Nine stood before the Whirlpool Daimyo, his wife, and the Kazakage of Suna. Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akamaiki, Tenten, Rock Lee, Shino Aburame. Both Kiba Inuzuka and Neji Hyuga were dead, Kiba having died at the hands of Katami Akashiya while Hinata killed her cousin. As with their parents, their chakra was sealed, their wrists were bound as they were taken from the impromptu prison from the Konoha Stadium to the Hokage Tower where Naruto awaited with Hinata, Konan, and Gaara. Katami stood off to the side along with several Neo-Uzu Anbu. Konoha is finished, Naruto began without preamble. Sasuke Uchiha is dead, as you already know. Your parents and your senseis will face execution, as will the civilian council and the former Sannin. So why are we here? Ino demanded. If you have anything to offer us, you can shove it, Uzumaki. We would rather die with our families and senseis. No need to be rude, Yamanaka, Naruto replied. I'm here to offer you 6 an offer. You 6 will be separated, 3 of you will go to Suna, and the other 6 will return with Hinata and I to Neo-Uzu. As your prisoners, Tenten surmised, arms folded. No, all you 6 have to do is swear loyalty to both Gaara and myself, and you will be pardoned, Naruto replied. The Ino Shika Cho trio will be taken to Suna, while what's left of Selgai and Shino will come with us to Neo-Uzu. You will be placed on probation for 18 months and watched closely. Should you prove your worth, then we will fully accept you in our respective villages. Naruto raised one hand. But before you say anything, I will tell you why your parents and senseis are being executed along with the perv and the hag. He turned to Katami. Show them. Katami nodded. The 6 ninja recognized the chakra signature of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, as Naruto had used on several occasions. 9 fox tails out from behind Katami as her green eyes shifted to red with slitted pupils. This is the Kyuubi no Kitsune's human form, Naruto explained. As you can see, the Vixen and I are completely different entities. You can blame the Uchiha clan for driving her into a mad state and unleashing it upon Konoha. The dawning realization was creeping onto them. Naruto Uzumaki was not the Kyuubi reborn. He was completely innocent in all of this. My father, the Yondaime Hokage, wanted the people of the Leaf to see me as a hero for carrying such a burden, Naruto continued. But despite the Sandame's best efforts, I was treated like a village outcast for something that was not beyond my control. On top of that, his eyes shifted into the Rinnegan. Maybe it's best that I show you. After all, my memories are not fake. Experience what I have experienced. And Naruto showed them how their former senseis, as well as their own parents, had tried to kill him. How Tsunade betrayed him. How Jiraiya and the council conspired to rob him of his family's legacy and leave him with nothing. More importantly, they discovered the true reason why he was banished, and of Sasuke's confession of how he gutted Sakura in order to gain the Magankyu Sharingan. Needless to say, their impressions of their parents and their senseis had dropped down to 0. Dad. Asuma. Why? Ino. Troublesome. Very troublesome. Asuma. Dad. You fools. Take a wild guess. I think I lost my appetite. Choji. Kurenai. Father. What have you done? Shino. So unyouthful. Damn you, Guy. Rock Lee. My god. Guy. How could you? Tenten. Now you see, Naruto said as his eyes turned back to normal. Now, are you willing to die for a village who has tried to rob me of everything? That has tried to kill me as a child? What say you now? Will you take the offer of exile, or you can face the same fate as will your senseis and parents? Make your choice. It didn't take them long to agree with Naruto's demands. They chose to leave the village to their fate. Shikamaru did have one request. He requested that the daughters of Asuma and Kurenai Sarutobi accompany them to Suna. Gaara agreed to the request. Shino, Tenten and Rock Lee were taken back to the Hyuga estate, where the Neo-Uzu senior staff were staying, while the Inoshika-cho trio were taken to Suna once Gaara pulled his forces back. By that time, only Neo Uzu was left. End flashback. Lord Daimyo. Naruto was brought out of his reverie. A Neo Uzu Anbu stood before him. Report. Naruto commanded. We swept through the village. All of the civilians have been removed and sent elsewhere throughout the country, the Anbu reported. The ashes of the first 4 Hokages and your mother have been retrieved and sealed away. All that is left is to deal with the shinobi and civilian clan heads inside the stadium. Your orders. The seals are still in place, keeping them from escaping the stadium itself. Yes, Lord Daimyo. Naruto rose from his seat. Good. I will deal with them myself. Konoha Stadium, noon. The stadium served as an outdoor prison, triage center for the surviving ninja, clan heads and the civilian council. The seals kept them from escaping, both the chakra draining seals on their person and the seals blocking the exits, effectively keeping them on the stadium's tournament area. Inoichi and the other clan heads were worried. Their children were not seen ever since they were taken to see the Kyuubi brat, and he suspected that Naruto could have them executed out of pure spite. Asuma and Kurenai's children were gone as well, and Kurenai was beside herself with grief. Out of the remaining clan heads, it was himself, Shikaku Nara, Shuza Akamaiki, Zume Inuzuka, Shibi Aburame, and Asuma Sarutobi. Out of the Junin senseis, it was Kakashi Hatake, Maida Guy and Kurenai Sarutobi. Through sheer dumb luck, Kaharu Udatane and Hanmura Mitokado also survived the battle, as did Tsunade Senju, and Jiraiya. Shizune was killed during the battle, a victim of friendly fire from the Konoha forces. Their worries were soon amplified by the arrival of Daimyo Namikaze and his entourage. Standing in the podium reserved for the Hokage and the visiting cages, Naruto looked down on the people who had hindered his progress from day one. They tried, but failed in breaking him. And now, it was time for some get even. Your village is finished, Naruto began in a chakra-enhanced voice. Your Hokage, your precious Uchiha, is dead, killed by my hand. As it was the Yondaime, my father, who has brought this village to greatness, so will his son bring about its destruction. You are no son of the Yondaime, demon. A random civilian councilman shouted. Thunk. Said councilman fell to the ground with a kunai embedded in his skull. Naruto turned to his wife. Nice aim, Haim. Turning back to the crowd, he caught sight of Jiraiya, Tsunade and Kakashi. Had you honored the dying wishes of my father, this would not have ended this way for your village. Had Konoha left my family and my home in peace, I would not have to invade. You have brought this upon yourselves by throwing your lot in with a traitor rather than a hero. Naruto paused for a moment. All I ever wanted was to be recognized by you. But you could not get past over what was inside of me, at the time. At that, Tsunade and Jiraiya exchanged glances. The Nine Tails is free. I was loyal. Compared to the likes of Sasuke and Orochimaru, I was a saint. I was more than willing to give my life to the leaf. All I wanted was recognition. Instead, you forsake me in favor of the Uchiha. I protected Konoha when it was invaded by Suna and Oto, and you denied me. I brought that old hag back to Bigodaime, and you still denied me. I even went as far as taking 2 Chidoris in the chest to bring back your precious little traitor, and what thanks do I get? Banishment. Banishment just for doing my job. And to top it off, you tried to rob me of my legacy. The clan heads and the council exchanged glances. The one thought that was going through their minds was, how did he find out? Now Naruto was leaking killing intent. And I also find out that my godparents were in on the banishment and the attempted robbery. He smiled at Jiraiya. I hoped you liked the present I left for you inside my father's estate, you old perv. Jiraiya brought one hand to his scarred face, remembering the chest full of exploding tags that was left inside the empty estate. You tried to steal what was rightfully mine from the beginning. And you were more than willing to kill me in order to do so. Let's not forget that the so-called honorable clan heads and several key Junin tried to kill me when I was a child. Inoichi and the others began to sweat. Anytime their attempts to kill the Jinchuriki had failed, Inoichi would simply wipe his mind whenever Naruto would end up in a hospital. They knew that they were so very much screwed. You should know better, Yamanaka, Naruto snarled. The fox restored my memories every time you tried to wipe them of you and your friends' attempts on my life. I should have killed you myself, you brat. Tsunade shouted. Damn it, I should have killed you when you and Jiraiya came for me all those years ago. I should have knocked your head off back then. Silence. Naruto boomed. He drew his katana. You tried to kill me. Allow me to return the favor. Only this time, you will die for real. Take comfort that your children will survive, but know that they will forever hate you for what you have done to me. At that moment, Jiraiya noticed something on Tsunade's back. In fact, it was on every single clan head's backs. A second seal, aside from the one which sealed up their chakra. Jiraiya's eyes widened in horror as he recognized the seal. The Hiraishin seal. Hiraishin no Jutsu. A yellow flash was all that the captive shinobi saw. Then darkness. Naruto stood in the midst of the bodies of the shinobi he had slain, his katana dripping with blood, his clothes also splattered with the blood of his fallen foes. The clan heads, the Junin, dead. Even Tsunade and Jiraiya were not spared his wrath. Which left to the two ninja elders and the civilian council. I take it you spared us for a reason? Koharu asked, frightened out of her mind. Of course, Naruto replied. A side glance towards Katami and the red-headed woman was in Naruto's side in a geyser of fire. You will not die by my hand, Naruto said. That garnered a sigh of relief from Koharu, Hanmura and the civilian council. Instead, Naruto began as Katami shifted into her fox form, in all her nine-tailed glory. Twice the size of Akamaru, and very pissed off. You will die at the hands of Kyuubi no Kitsune. Now the civilians looked very scared. The last thing that was going through their minds was that they had tortured an innocent child. They were trapped inside the stadium with nowhere to hide. Now, they will pay for their ignorance with their lives. Once the town was evacuated, Naruto allowed Katami to finish what she had started. As the Neo-Uzu shinobi headed back home, Naruto and Hinata remained behind to watch as the Nine Tails destroy Konoha once and for all. By the time Katami was finished with the village, it was nothing but a smoking ruin. The destruction of Konoha had not left a power vacuum as expected. Konoha had long since lost its status as the powerful of the shinobi villages. Neo-Uzushiogakur was now the most powerful, Suna and Iwa tied for second place. The people of Fire Country, their pride was broken with the loss of their village and of their wealth. But they brought it on themselves. Had they honored the last wishes of the Yondaime, then Konoha would have been left standing, with Naruto as its Hokage. But, it was not meant to be. Konohagakure no Sato had all but ceased to exist. Naruto